Jersey's own Zach Gelb.
Or maybe it's Pennsylvania. Anyhow, it's one of the two, I'm pretty sure.
The Zach Gelb Show continues
On Fox Sports 920, The Jersey.
The level of excitement is through the roof. What a performance yesterday by Carson Wentz. 22 of 37, 278 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The Wentz wagon is about to break because the stock is going through the roof, and we are at max capacity with the amount of support that Carson Wentz is getting in the city of Philadelphia. This is the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920, The Jersey, 609-919-9200. Time right now in our Princeton Orthopedic Associates studios, 517. Now joining us on the hotline, a man that does a tremendous job with BGN Radio on Sports Radio 94 WIP. They went from 97.5 now to 94 WIP, and they are big time now. Their stock is also going through the roof, and that's John Barchard, who's kind enough to give us a few minutes right now. John, thanks for a few minutes and a happy Football Monday. Thanks for the time today.
Absolutely, not big time, just big, man. That's all. I gotta lose a little. I gotta lose a little more weight, and I can jump on that Wentz wagon so it doesn't break. You know.
Hey, if the both of us jumped on the Wentz wagon right now, the thing would definitely break. Just the two of us.
Probably right.
So yesterday, just the intelligence by Carson Wentz, the big-time throws, the touch, everything was just so special. You couldn't have had a better start. What stood out to you the most yesterday?
I mean, I think the fact that coming into this, more or less, what I saw from Carson Wentz yesterday is what I thought we'd see halfway through the season. Maybe you would get there. Maybe you would see some pinpoint throws like you did to Jordan Matthews and Nelson Aguilar for touchdowns. No way did I expect that one on the first drive, and then you have these tight window throws, checking off blitzes, making sure that you're getting into the right reads, the right situation for the offense. I mean, it's hard not to get excited. I know a lot of people have said today, it's like, well, it's the Cleveland Browns and blah, blah, blah. Sure, but if he failed against the Cleveland Browns or if he didn't look as impressive, well, then what would you say then? Is that a bust? So, I mean, it's been an amazing journey just from Sam Bradford being traded, which made me feel a lot better about Carson Wentz to begin with, to now actually physically seeing him on the field and being like, wow, this kid has it. It is there. The aggressiveness, forcing the issue against the secondary as he did yesterday, that's something that was missing from Chip Kelly's offense. It's something that's everybody's always looking for. For an NFL quarterback to succeed in this league, you have to be aggressive. You have to not care so much about, I don't know if I should do this or not. You can't think. And Carson Wentz displayed that. So to me, I mean, that instantly removed any type of bust label that he might have. And now it's like, okay, he's good. Now let's see how good he can be.
And the first big test for him, I would say, is the Pittsburgh game, because the Bears, they're not that good of a football team. Just like the Browns, they aren't that great of a football team. And yes, I do take yesterday with a little bit of a grain of salt, but everything you mentioned, the circumstances, I was hoping earlier in this offseason that we would see Wentz for the final 4 games of the season. And I've been someone that's just been saying ever since they named him the starter, I don't care about the win totals this year. I just want to see that hope. And yesterday you saw the hope that, yes, the Eagles may have someone that could lead this franchise for many years to come. It's exciting, no question.
Yeah, and that's the same mentality I had too, Zach. And I even said it on our podcast, the radio show and everything. I just said, look, you can't treat this as, okay, you need the Eagles to win the division. You just got to remove yourself for 1 week and let's just see what this kid has. But you start to look at, the Dallas and the Giants and their situation, and none of those things were really impressive or stuck out. So you're going to see what happens with Washington tonight against Pittsburgh. And I'm still not sure if Pittsburgh is. I mean, obviously their front seven, and I even say Chicago's front four are going to be a way better test, than the Cleveland Browns. I still think Chicago's secondary, Wentz still should have some good plays and succeed there. I still kind of feel the same way about Pittsburgh and their secondary. It's been improved over the last couple of years here, but they're still really struggling to solidify what's going on through there. So I don't expect, at least in my mind, you're still going to ride the waves of a rookie quarterback. You even saw some of that, yesterday too, and we don't want to just go into that because of how it's kind of minuscule versus the things that he did do so well. That we're not talking about those a lot, but there were a couple of rookie mistakes that flashed there late in the game. And I expect those things to continue. But like I said before, I don't think he can be a terrible bust. I don't see him like reverting back to anything that we're not thinking of right now.
So with yesterday, you're playing the Browns. That was a team that traded out of that number 2 spot with the Eagles. They moved back. They're going to try to get their quarterback this upcoming year. And I don't know if a quarterback will ever work in Cleveland. You see the RG3 news. But a lot of chirping by the Browns. Paul DePodesta, who is at first a baseball guy, now an NFL guy. I don't get that one. And I'm someone that's a Met fan, so I know about Paul DePodesta. And then you also have Hugh Jackson saying he's not a right fit. Once again, I don't see how, if you need a quarterback position, how a guy like Carson Wentz couldn't be the right fit for Cleveland. And Wentz downplayed that all during the week. And yes, I'm sure he didn't need any extra motivation for his first career start. But down deep, do you think there was maybe a little bit more motivation from the quarterback from North Dakota State?
You know what? I thought the same thing, too. And the vibe that I got down there yesterday was he really didn't factor into it. I mean, he was worried about his job at hand. And you kind of saw that when he's sitting alone at the bench by himself, like going over his playbook, going over his notes, talking to people, talking to Jordan Matthews. What I do think about all of that is funny is, like, first of all, why even mention that? Because even in context, it didn't even sound that bad. But why even say that the week before he's about to play an opponent? So I'm sure that, I mean, like we did in Philadelphia, and I'm sure you did too, we're just like, wow, I mean, that's bulletin board material. We're going to remind you of that every second of every day. And just, you go from passing on this kid who, I don't know how you can say sub-20 quarterback, because that's the main quote that's going around. Like, you have to be so bad to be a sub-20 quarterback. And even then, even though I was kind of resistant to the Carson Wentz hype train, I still as a sub-20, I just didn't see that at all. Cody Kessler's not the answer. I think they're bringing up Kevin Hogan from the practice squad too, so it's just the myriad of horrible quarterbacks that they continue to kind of go through here. But look, hey, maybe this is a blessing in disguise for the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson's a very talented quarterback. He's been one of my favorite guys going into the college season here. So maybe they luck out and it still works out for them. I understand their logic behind it too, because they need players. You saw the defense; it's not good. You saw their situations at wide receiver. I mean, if they didn't have Terrell Pryor, and Corey Coleman's another guy that I was very high on coming in through here, like, they need those guys. And I think they're instantly regretting that a little bit. And you even heard, Joe Thomas speak out about that. He goes, I'm not exactly the man in charge of evaluating quarterbacks, but that kid didn't look like a rookie to me. So you started to hear whispers through the Browns locker room. Was like, yeah, that was really impressive performance, rookie or no rookie. So I think there is a little instant regret, especially with Cleveland fans right now, with the Browns passing on him.
I feel bad for a player like Joe Thomas, a Hall of Fame player, and he has to be in Cleveland his entire career with no chance of ever winning. I do feel bad for him as John Barchard joins us right now, BGN Radio on Sports Radio 94 WIP. This is the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. The Eagles, not a lot of offensive talent for many people, including myself, thinking going into the season. But yesterday, you have to give the quarterback some help, and Ryan Matthews did do that. How impressed were you yesterday with Ryan Matthews?
With that, and also Doug Peterson kind of sticking with him, because it wasn't really working that well early. But again, that Ryan Matthews and the gap blocking system that they kind of instituted in here with Frank Reich and all that, like, that's his strong suit. And Ryan Matthews has never had an issue dealing with a talent problem. It's always been a health problem. So I thought him continually fighting for those extra yards yesterday. They got a couple of pops for 7 or 10 yards in there. And obviously towards the end of the game with our favorite friend Bo Allen playing fullback for a couple of series there and trying to get in and then you have Jason Peters catching Ryan Matthews in the end zone. It was a really good day for him. I thought it was great to, even there was some hemming and hawing because Jordan Matthews dropped the first Carson Wentz bat. They're like, oh my God, it's just here we go again. But it's odd to me, and maybe I was the only one, but I felt like Nelson Aguilar didn't really show us everything he was all about last year. And he didn't show a ton this game, so I don't want to overhype it or anything. But, again, no drops from him. Jordan Matthews had an incredible day. Zach Ertz, unfortunately, looks like he's going to be injured and maybe even possibly out for a week or two. We'll have to kind of keep our eyes on that. But I really liked what Doug Peterson did to implement the 11 personnel, which basically means, you're going to have a running back, 3 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, and you're going to have an empty set backfield. They ran that a lot, and that kind of turned into, the 3 tight ends that was supposed to be trailing around with them, but with Trey Burton being injured, they really couldn't do any of those things. I thought the game planning, the offensive help was very surprising. It's something I didn't expect. So in the first go, I can't really say that Doug Peterson is Andy 2.0. I think he is his own coach, and I think he has his own wrinkles, and you can see the elements of Frank Reich and John DeFilippo in there as well to put these guys in the best position to succeed.
And I know this could change very easily. Let's say if the team lost 5 games in a row. And yesterday you just saw that Eagles locker room. It just seems like a locker room that's much more comfortable and doesn't have to deal with the dictator that was Chip Kelly watching over every single little move. You saw that raw emotion, and you've been hearing it all throughout training camp that these players just like this new fresh air approach with Doug Peterson. Now, he has to be careful not to be a walking mat as a player's coach, but so far with the coach that I didn't love when they made the hire, I've been impressed with the way that he commands the respect of those players.
Yeah, a lot of and there's still, I still think there might be some miscommunication or a small disconnect between him and the front office itself, between Howie and Jeffrey and all that. But as far as the locker room goes, and granted, it happens when there's a change and everybody hated the guy that was in there for, or at least the majority did. And even though that happened, I still think a little bit of that was overblown. But yeah, you saw, you see that type of thing, and there was this family that they celebrated the victory yesterday, and they 1, 2, 3 family at the end. So they're trying to really implement the emotional intelligence, which has been like the best buzzword since culture has come by here. But they are really trying to kind of put it all together and make it feel like that. And it seems like guys were a little more relaxed, and a lot of that could just be because they won. Winning sure. Really cures all things. But yeah, for the most part, Zach, they're very happy, and if they keep winning and there's no kind of roadblocks that come in the next 5 games, just like you said, then sure, yeah, I think that the culture in the locker room has changed quite a bit.
And no question, with the front office, it may not be there yet. Just look at the whole Lane Johnson situation, and they could have nipped that thing in the bud, but they elected not to do that, and they still have no comment. We'll see when that announcement comes down, but as someone that pays attention to those battle in the trenches yesterday, I want to bring something up with Jason Peters. It just looked like he was a half second earlier than everyone else yesterday. What was going on with Jason Peters?
Not just Jason Peters, Lane Johnson, too.
Yeah, man. No, you're right.
I think I had counted 6 or 7 times where the ref, for whatever reason, didn't blow or didn't throw the flag on him, where it's, he was a half second before the half. Same on both sides. It's interesting how that's kind of happened. That's kind of almost expected for Jason Peters because he's been doing that a lot his entire career. But, the first half of the offensive line really looked bad. There was parts in there wow, I can't believe they kind of do this. They shorted up a little more in the second half, and I even thought, as much as we've been getting on Jason Kelsey, he had an okay game. He was able to kind of pick up some of those A and B gap blitzes and kind of sort that stuff out. But yeah, Jason Peters at some point is. I thought he was it last year, and I understand why they kept him on though, even though it was a pretty expensive price tag. With the salary cap at around, whatever it is, about $9 million right now. But I think the wear and tear is going to be coming there. And obviously you saw Matt Tobin checking in a lot. Alan Barbre actually had a pretty decent game, which was interesting too. So there's still a mixed match. And I even saw, Brooks kind of struggle at times too. And he's the high-priced new free agent guard that's supposed to solidify that spot. So I think there are things that are going to be up in the air. And just like you were saying, if Lane Johnson's suspension eventually comes, then it's going to be kind of a lot more throw up your hands in there and say, well, Carson, I'm sorry, I don't know what's going to happen here, but you have to kind of do this thing. And I still think there are ways to get around it. I actually think their scheme kind of benefits from, obviously anybody would want to have the best offensive line ever, but there are, especially in the running game, there are ways to mask those deficiencies. I just don't know if you can do that with Matt Tobin starting for 8 games in a row or whoever ends up kind of coming in there.
Before we get to the defenses, we're talking to John Barchard. Today, my poll question is, will the Eagles win more than 7 games? What do you say about that?
I'm going to say that was my mark coming in, and I don't think I can change that yet. I still see 7 and 9. I think they play some pretty tough teams in the latter half of the schedule here, and as much as I want to believe that they can probably, who knows, maybe 7 and 9 wins the division. But I still think that this is still going to be right around a 7-8 win team at best here, unless they continue to have the same kind of offensive success that they had against the Browns. And unfortunately, you can't play the Browns every week.
So give me the ups and downs yesterday with the defense and Jim Schwartz.
I thought the pass rush itself, as much as I anticipated that being the very dominant part of this game, and I'll give, I'm not trying to disrespect actually the Cleveland offensive line because it's working up to be a pretty good one, but there was no real 4-man pressure coming from there. That's something you expect in a wide 9 look. Towards second half, obviously, that kind of showed up. Brandon Graham got it back there, a couple of sack fumbles, the interceptions, all that's there. I think my main concern was the secondary, mainly just the cornerbacks. Like, this is something that I was a little troubled with in the beginning, and I understand with the Eric Rowe situation that, he either had to be a complete a-hole or I don't know what was going on, or dumb as rocks or something that was going on there. But you couldn't tell me that even before McKelvin went down,
you're right,
that he would be a better option in there. Same with sometimes Nolan Carroll didn't look as sharp in the first half there. Jalen Mills looked pretty good when he kind of came on, but that's still going to be a rotating thing, and that's how important, Malcolm Jenkins and, McLeod are going to be moving forward, because they need to mask some of that and allow, those guys to either develop or get better. Ron Brooks had a pretty solid game, so I shouldn't say all around, and I think they stood up where they needed to, but there were a couple of throws where I think at one point RG3 threw up a 50-50 ball. I think there was 3 DBs around him. Nobody adjusted the ball, and that's what opened up the second half of the game there. So it's small things like that. But for the most part, I thought the front 4 and the back end, just like what I'd always thought of, played decent enough. It's just kind of making sure that kind of gets fixed moving forward here.
I love McLeod yesterday. I believe the fans are just going to fall in love with him. Hard-hitting safety. We always know we like that in Philadelphia, and then the interception was big as well.
Yeah, I mean, he really showed off his range. That batted fifth pick is exactly why they signed him up, and I still can't really believe that St. Louis let him go. There is a lot of potential for him to be that, dare I say, next Dawkins type of mentality where – not only the hits, the hits came too. The hits came before the interception, and, people took notice of that as well. And I really do think that between him and Malcolm, they could be one of the best safety tandems in the league. And that's saying a lot, because you don't see that too often, but they complement so well. Malcolm is your second QB on that defense, and he covers really well. And McLeod is definitely the basher and the Range Rover, so he can allow those guys to maybe take some of those risks and to do that. But he's seemed to be, even in St. Louis, and you saw it yesterday, always in the right position, ready to make a certain play, and he was there. I was the same way, Zach. I was just like, man, this was probably the best signing of maybe even of Howie's free agent career. So we'll have to wait and see.
Before we let you run, I've been following BGN Radio for a long time, and I love James Seltzer because he's a good friend of mine. We went to college together, although I'm very much younger than James is. He had so many stops in college. That's not that tough to do when you look at James. But tell me a little bit more about BGN Radio and all the fine work that you guys do now on Sports Radio 94 WIP.
Yeah, so we had been doing the podcast for we're probably going to go on year 3 of it, and now we've made a bunch of stops, and we're happy to be at WIP with Spike Eskins, giving us a great opportunity here. We're going to be just rocking and rolling. We get to talk about the Eagles for anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, depending what the Phillies are up to, and Saturday nights at 4 p.m. To 6 p.m. We just kind of take the podcast and make it even bigger and better and boomerier and other adjectives that I can't think of right now. But we're so happy to be over there and just be a part of the Eagles flagship station and have the access that we do. And it's fun because you get the little bits from Fletcher Cox yesterday and Bo Allen, and that's what WIP has kind of allowed us to do and expand the podcast part of it as well. And Brandon Lee Gowton's been with us for a long time, and he was the editor-in-chief of Bleeding Green Nation, and he's now moved on to take Tim McManus's spot over at Birds 24/7, but he's still with us each and every week, and we're just excited to talk Eagles every week with the best radio station in Philadelphia.
So now I need some behind-the-scenes perspective here. You're in the host chair. James is behind the glass, running the boards and also co-hosting with you. But you're the lead dog. You're the alpha male with BGN Radio. How much crap behind the scenes do you give to James Seltzer?
Actually, not much. We're like brothers. We are. We just not enough. Maybe not enough.
You should hear what he says about you.
Oh man. Well, see, you got to let me know the dirt so that I can get back at him, and then we'll have a big feud. The ratings will go up, and it'll be great. So that's what's great.
Can't do that. I'm sworn to secrecy to James. But John, we appreciate the time today. Thanks so much, and continued success.
Thanks, Zach. We appreciate it, man.